Okay, so welcome everybody to this special Travolution Travel Forward session, which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how the consumer's been impacted by COVID-19, but really in the sense that how that is now affecting businesses and what businesses need to do to react to the changes in consumer behaviour. Before we start, I need to just explain we can take questions from the audience. You won't see them appear on the platform, but I will be able to see them if you input them. They will be sent to me, and I can put those to the speakers. So please try and do that. We do have this morning with Koddi and Mabrian, we have created a short white paper, just giving you some latest stats on the industry from the way they see things from their data in terms of the overall impact on demand for travel of COVID-19. And then Mabrian's looked into its data and given us a bit of insight into what's happened over the last 2 or 3 weeks from the Canaries' point of view, given all the changes that have happened there with them coming on and off the quarantine and then second lockdown in England, sort of shutting things down again for the winter. And that shows you quite an interesting trend where there's clearly pent up demand in travel. And as soon as countries come on sale, that goes ballistic. Then as soon as the circumstances change again, obviously it goes back the other way. But it does show fairly positive that there is a lot of pent up demand out there. People are just waiting for the green light to go. And obviously we've heard the very positive news yesterday of hopefully a vaccine on the way. So you can hear or sense that pent up demand getting ever louder for next year. So fingers crossed for that. So we'll get started. I'll introduce the panel very quickly and then we'll get cracking. First up, we've got Yuval Ziv, who comes from Nuvei, which is a technology, payments technology and merchant acquirer. So welcome, Yuval.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Alexander Steenbakkers-Noffke, who is from Koddi. Welcome, Alex.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Hello, and we've got Carlos Cendra, who is coming to us. He's actually on the island of Menorca at the minute, so we're all very jealous. And he's coming to us from Mabrian. Welcome, Carlos.
Thank you, Lee. Hello, everybody.
How are you doing? Look, let's kick off. Let's bring Yuval in. You come at travel from a particular point of view, from the sort of the payments process side. You've got a good view of what's going on in the industry. Just in terms of what you're seeing, the impact of COVID-19 on the consumer. What are the main things that you're seeing? What are the main trends that you see, and how travel firms need to react to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you once again for hosting us. And definitely the pandemic has brought additional challenges into a vertical or into an industry that is anyhow more complex than many others. At Nuvei, we are serving multiple different verticals. Travel is definitely one of the unique ones in terms of complexity. What we have recognized is a lot about changes and uncertainty, obviously, when the pandemic just started. We've seen the travel business almost reaching into a full stop, let's call it, or season activity, where from payment perspective, it brought a lot of challenges such as refunds, chargeback handling, and how can an operator overcome even what we call in the industry the double dipping, where a user is asking for a refund, but also in exactly the same time filing a chargeback. We've seen the industry a little bit recovering towards the summer in some cases of the world, where some of the users already enjoyed from the seasonality of the pandemic, let's call it, and then we started seeing some of the travel agencies and also airlines back to business. And yet again, when countries, especially in Europe, started the additional lockdown and obvious as an obvious results, we see the entire trend once again. I think that it's the challenges that we've seen are across the board, across the how to accept them payment, how to increase or secure the loyalty of the users, and how to identify those aspects, and obviously how to mainly improve cash flow or profitability at such times of uncertainty. And all of that has been a significant challenge in the pandemic. We've seen even within the travel vertical, few different niches, looking at it from this different aspects. Airlines on one hand, travel agencies on the other hand, maybe taxi applications and the food deliveries on another end. So all of that is very much reacted into a situation that was uncertain, but we've found together with them a lot of ways, mainly allowing technology, helping them during those challenges.
We'll go into a bit more detail about how tech is at the heart of meeting these challenges, because it seems to be the case in all your different areas. But before we move on to the other guys, just a quick thought on which of these main, do you think these changes, a lot of these changes are going to be sort of short-lived? So, you know, if we do see this sort of, you know, vaccine fueled immediate comeback, we'll be looking back and thinking, oh, well, that was very short-lived. We didn't have to change very much. It was just related to COVID. Or do you think we've seen things happen in the last 6 months which will require long-term fundamental change and things won't go back?
So I think that this is a very similar question to any different vertical out there. For example, work from home, where we are always looking at what used to be very common up till recently, and working from offices or even traveling for business. I think that eventually some of the influences are here for the long run, or even here to stay. Yeah. Some will bring some sort of changes. Business travel, for example, I'm sure that will be a bit different than what we were used to, either in frequency, either in type or need. And some will very maybe slowly, maybe fast, each one in his own estimation, but will be definitely coming back into normality once a vaccine is out there throughout the population. I think that the interesting part is not only we as a technology company asking ourselves and trying to find the solutions for the meanwhile, but also among survey that we've done with our merchants, with travel operators and airlines, we've identified that the rebound process of coming back into normality is very much different in estimation. Some estimate that it will be towards the end of 21, but others of some of our clients or prospects that we are working together are estimating 3 and 4 years of rebound process. So it very much depends on the type of the type of the travel. But I can definitely agree that some of those changes are here to stay.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm an optimistic person, and I think that we are back to normality as fast as the vaccine is out there, but who knows?
You and Ryanair, I think, Michael Leary said something similar. He doesn't believe in this sort of 3 or 4 year recovery. He's off. He's next year for him. So let's hope for that. Alex, I know you want to pick up on that mix of travel and how maybe this will be a leisure travel driven recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we look at this really, if we look at business travel, right? I think it's about 22% of the global spend or revenue in the hospitality industry is driven by business travel. However, going back a little bit, when we looked at our statements in like August, July, a lot of the company executives said, "Oh, we really missed this business travel." But I think now we're a couple of months in, we have the second wave. We actually see companies rethinking, right? We see companies seeing that you actually can sell effectively, for example, just via online means of channels without meeting in person, right? So, and I think that will have a lasting impact going forward. I share Yuval's opinion there that the leisure travel really will lead, right, the recovery, because this is kind of like the demand, the amped up demand now of people who really want to travel again. And to the Mabrian case study of the Canary Islands, we see that, right? So as soon as one region in Europe is declared safe, we see the searches spiking and people want to travel again. So I think this is a good indicator once the vaccine is out, once rapid testing is widely available, and the travelers feel really secure, right, to book again. Then I think the leisure travel will pick up quite steadily. Just real quick, also to talking about security, right? Giving travelers security to book, right? There are 2 aspects to it. One is the health aspect, right? So that I actually can get tested. I know I do not get infected. I can travel back. I do not need to go in quarantine. And the second aspect, obviously, is the trust into the companies. You know, so what companies do I really book with? You know, do I have like a really rigid cancellation policy? or can I cancel at any time for any given reason in that aspect? So I feel actually safe to book. If we look at the booking windows, we still see booking windows completely in a different compilation or constellation than we saw before, right? Travelers book with like 2 to 4 days in advance, even when it comes to leisure travel. And that really all speaks out, this is not, it's a last minute decision because people do not feel safe to book or plan in advance.
Just to finish that point on the business travel, if that is the case, it puts the industry in a very different place in terms of, the way it's structured. A lot of airlines really rely on that big business travel to make their money. The people that turn left on the aircraft who work for the KPMGs of this world, who don't think twice of paying a first class or a business class fare.
Yeah.
If that isn't happening in the way you suggest, that puts strain on a lot of those models, but it also puts the strain on the hotels as well, who are catering for that kind of concept.
Yeah.
So you see a reset there, yeah.
Yeah. Look, just look at the numbers, right? 10%. So I think airline capacities, the travel business, the business traveler makes up for 10% of their capacity, but for over 50 to 70% of the revenue of airlines, right? So airlines also, they need to kind of like really reshaping their strategy and maybe focusing more on the luxury leisure travel to really make up for these business travelers. Because also, if we think about business travel, right, we think, okay, the international business travel will recover last, right? That's a clear given, because there's way too much insecurity still globally, even with a vaccine available soon and rapid testing at some point. So this is really where the luxury leisure travel can alleviate some of the pain for the airlines.
Yeah. Carlos, Alex quite helpfully there mentioned things like security and the perception of security. And I know that's a really central plank of one of your data sets that you look at, amongst the many other data sets that you bring together and aggregate trying for the industry. So you've created your own perception index for security. How important do you think that is going to be going forward? I'm thinking in particular, like everyone's talking about short haul being the driver of recovery, because people are more confident just going short haul generally. So it's an open question as to when long haul recovers. But of course, it's long haul where you can increase your pricing and increase your revenues and margins. So the industry's got to be sort of patient, I guess. And it's all around that perception. And what are you seeing at the minute?
Yeah, well, obviously the security perception index now it's a key KPI to monitor. It was already a key KPI in a lot of destinations we work with. We were mostly with destination managers. Before, one of the first aspects for a traveler is to feel safe, to feel confident to go on vacation with his or her family into a place, obviously, right? And then there are other factors, but one of the first ones, obviously, is the safety. In this case, we are applying these indicators to track really tight how is it evolving the perception in terms of security for any origin market for a destination. And this is something interesting to check because for every origin, we can find different perceptions for the same situation in the destination, right? Because the security perception, what we try to measure by analyzing the spontaneous interactions in social media about a destination, it's the perception that the travelers and potential travelers, so people even that only talking about the intention of traveling, how they perceive destination, right? And this could be influenced not only by the situation in destination, but also by the situation in their own country, right? A good example is regarding the data in the white paper we were reviewing during last week. The back and forth situation with the Canary Islands and UK, for example, right? 3 weeks ago, were released these safe corridors, so British people can go to the Canary Islands on vacation, which are one of the leading destinations in Europe during this season. In fact, in November is starting their high season normally, right? Because of their really good weather during all year. When these corridors were lifted because a new lockdown was released for UK, the security perception of the British people towards the Canary Islands was even higher than before. I mean, when they felt more unsafe at home, they feel that Canary Islands were even safer, right? Yeah. So you can imagine how everything can have an influence on that perception, and it's really interesting understanding if the British are feeling the same than the Germans and the Italians and every kind of origin market for a destination, for example.
And it's interesting what you can see in the data. We didn't get a chance to publish a lot of the flight capacity data and how that has been reactive to the situation. It's really important for suppliers here because they're trying to react in real time, make quick decisions in very difficult circumstances. But what we see in your data is that different airlines react in different ways. Some react very quickly. Some seem to want to take a more stand back and wait approach.
Yeah. Well, this situation for destinations and for airlines it's a roller coaster. So it's back and forth every 2 days, and so it's really confusing for them. And yeah, we saw different and keep seeing different patterns in terms of their agility to activate or deactivate seats for destinations. There are ones that are much more fast by creating and destroying these seats or probably moving them to other destinations, and there are other that are more say calm and take more time to take that decision, right? In this case, in the example we were talking about of the Canary Islands, the airlines that move faster actually went wrong, because 1 week later everything was over. I mean, the safe corridor was over, and they had to take out a lot of seats again, right? Yeah. So you never know what's the best way.
Yeah. So given that situation, Yuval, you've got customers whose perception is changing all the time depending on various factors. You've got suppliers changing their capacities. It's a very fast-moving environment, and so all companies have to be quite agile on this. How do you help that? I mean, I'm thinking here about the data and the insights that because you can see the point of booking, you can see the point of conversion, can't you?
Yeah. So first of all, I think that it's a lot about flexibility and maintaining the dialogue together with not only as a payment partner, but I assume any kind of field out there supporting the travel operators, no matter if it's an airline or travel agency, supporting them in that time of uncertainty by providing the data, but also by providing the tools to handle data and to handle it faster. And I will give few examples on the payment aspect, but I'm sure that it's very much common in any other vertical or industry. The first example that I can think of is tackling the chargebacks and refunds challenge that the travel industry had by a technology that we've implemented of early warning. So warning the airline or the travel operator much in advance than compared to whatever they used to, and knowing 2 weeks, 3 weeks in advance that a chargeback is, or a dispute is now being activated with the issuer, allowing the airline and the travel operator to react, either to refund, either to react with vouchers, either to discuss together with the user, saving a lot of time, but also saving a lot of costs. Or all the different reconciliation technology that we've brought into place, allowing the travel operator to reconcile all of his and to match all of his incomes at once, getting better and faster cash flow, making all the different challenges of revenues much easier to handle. And the most important, as I mentioned, is to become a bit more flexible. Tour operators out there would like to explore more opportunities in means of payment, accepting more payments, more opportunities in different partnerships to form, to increase their capability. And if in one location it's suddenly a safe location to travel to, they would like to start accepting payments as fast as possible at that jurisdiction, which brings the importance of new payment methods all the time.
Well, we did a session at the Travolution Summit involving you guys at Nuvei a few weeks ago, Yuval, and we talked there about something around something called true conversion. So it's not just about how much marketing guys can throw people into the top of the funnel and try and get them down to conversion. It's then, do they actually convert? Is the payment accepted? Is the money then accepted? And sometimes in companies, because this happens in different divisions within businesses, they don't talk to each other. So what one part of the business is doing doesn't really accord with the other part. And there needs to be more of a kind of joined up, less siloed way of approaching that. I'm sure you agree with that, but how does that happen?
Absolutely. I think that the payment management within companies, organizations, especially big ones, and especially under times of uncertainty, becomes crucial almost, or even strategic. A marketing team cannot go ahead and market a specific location of travel if those specific markets are not covered properly with the payment options, or with the refunds options, or with any kind of reconciliation capability. So the entire cash flow management, payment functionality is becoming part of the strategic teams that are forming within organization. We are helping a lot with those organizations of how to form those and how to bring the payment as part of the strategic focal point. And again, a lot about the data. When we are bringing the data into the organization and they can see not only the capability, but also the entire flow from deposit all the way to conversion, or from marketing all the way to acceptance and acceptance rates, it brings the value, and they can take better decisions in terms of where to market, what type of target markets they want to go to.
And Alex, similarly with their marketing data, you see companies integrating that more into their decision-making process and making proper, really strategizing around what they're seeing in their marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the core essence. But to what Yuval said, right, you need to align everything so to have true success. But we see the players in the market which really have a very rapid and agile response to market trends or user behavior, really the leg up, because as Yuval also pointed out, right, you can really point your marketing activities to the point of sales that have demand and that actually can travel right now. Yeah. Right, and the companies that are deploying the appropriate marketing technology combining it with all of their business intelligence, they really have the leg up, and look, it even starts, if you look at user experience, right, in your properties, for example, if right, what is your typical traveler anxious about, right, you need to address that rapidly. You need to have a highly dynamic team, right, and then combine that with marketing data, and you will be able to address that property specific, market specific, very, very promptly.
Yeah. And Carlos, we've spoken before about historic data being of less value now, because what happened in the past increasingly doesn't predict what's happening today or in the future. And I know you were speaking before the session. You feel companies need to have a series of potential scenarios driven by what they see in the data that could happen, be prepared for each one of those scenarios.
Yeah. Totally. Well, the historical data and probably the traditional tools for research are coming to be useless right now, since we haven't seen any situation like this before. So we cannot make decisions based on historical data anymore. So that's why it's kind of vital to have that real-time information. I always refer to information more than data. I think that we have to work on top of information based on data analytics, not into data, because sometimes this is a misunderstanding, right? What we're doing now with our clients, we're checking and monitoring 4 or 5 different important indicators. I'm building different scenarios in terms of being more prudent or being more optimistic, right? I'm like Nuvei, really optimistic, but we have to work with different scenarios. So monitoring of, let's say, 4 factors: the impact of the outbreak, the pandemic, into the destination in terms of how many interactions tourist interactions are related to the destination and to the COVID-19 crisis. The second could be the security perception, which the index we just talked about. The third would be the demand. Is there any demand to our destination anywhere in the world? We can monitor that by their inspirational demand by flight searches, for example, right, which is a really sensitive indicator and can help us a lot to identify, as Alexander was saying, where is this demand and how strong is it, where I have to address to get that possible sales, and the fourth would be the access facility to our destination, right? Especially if we are a remote destination or we are an island, for example, the aspect of air connectivity, it's totally vital. So monitoring and managing well this factor is going to be key as well. So taking into account these four factors, we can apply it for a prudent scenario. So that's thinking on destination on the Mediterranean Sea, for example, for next spring. If the situation continues more or less like that, or how it was last summer, let's say our access facility, for example, it's going to be restricted probably to the people who can move by car or short haul origins, basically, for example, right? But if we go to an optimistic scenario, we can think on probably recovering air connectivity, not at the same level that it was before the COVID-19, but probably it's gonna rebound fast, and the offer of flights and seats, inbound seats for every destination is gonna be really good if the vaccine is working well by the beginning of the year. So yeah, building different scenarios and then keep on tracking them in real time, because everything is changing so fast to make that decisions.
There's a question on the Q&A. I might go to Yuval on this one just immediately. It goes back to sort of the beginning, really, about trends and people's perceptions. We talked about the US, where it feels like the US is going to be impacted because the virus seems to be out of control. So how this is going to impact how its behaviors. And I guess the question there is, do you think that certain countries will have a long-term impact in terms of perceptions because of the way it's felt they dealt with the pandemic in the first place, and that's going to actually affect demand going forward because of those perceptions will persist?
As for long-term versus short-term, I'm not sure what the answer is. I don't think that anyone has the crystal ball to answer that. But will the timing be different? Then definitely the answer is yes. By the way, during the pandemic, we've seen internal US flights continue. So in some of the tour operators and airlines that we are serving, it was actually surprising to see that in the rest of the world, where there is almost or close to a complete stop in the US, the activity continued. And yes, we have seen suddenly Asia picking up once again, while the rest of the world is now in a certain lockdown here or there. So there will be definitely differences in timing. As for US specifically, I do not expect it to be a long-term if the rest of the world will be dealing with it faster. Overall, I'm very much in agreement with Carlos. There are a few scenarios, eventually very much depending on the perception of the people of the vaccine and how it affects us. The one thing that I definitely share same opinion with Alexander is that the business travel, the changes will take longer to come back to normality, where the leisure travel, I believe people needs it. We've seen it also in the summer, will come back much faster. And no matter
I guess
where.
on destinations, you could argue, New Zealand's coming out this very well in terms of how they've dealt with the pandemic, but you can't travel to New Zealand at the moment. So it doesn't matter how your perception is on that one. But very quick one to Alex before we wrap up. There's a question about hotels looking to protect their brands, but really they should be looking at discounting. From a marketing point of view, is that way out of this? Is really heavily discount, get prices down, stimulate demand? Just a very quick answer on that one.
No, look, I really believe, well, there are two sides to it, right? But personally, I believe it's really about to strengthen your brand and feel the customer, make the customer really comfortable to book with you, right? This is really how you win long term. There are definitely a subset of travelers that believe, knowing that the travel industry is in shambles, that only go by discount, or that need to kind of like get over the anxiety by a discount. And yes, you can address these, but that's not a long-term strategy. I think the long-term strategy is really listen to the customers, what they need, overcome the anxiety, and then really hone in on that and be a winning brand. And that's what I also feel, might be a change. Direct bookings, right? Maybe the move away from an OTA to kind of like providers that really can control the entire experience, like tour operators or large hotel chains, where I really know what I get, right? Always. That might be a complete new avenue for the direct booking trend we have seen in the past.
To protect your brand that way. We have to wrap up now, I'm afraid. That went exceptionally quick. So, and thanks for that, guys. Before we do finish, I know Nuvei has also got a white paper. We've got our white paper out this morning, but you're working on a white paper for launch this month, or later this month, the end of this month.
Yeah, end of this month. It's a white paper with in cooperation with Edgar Dunn and Visa. Will be published on our website end of the month, and very much about the COVID effect on travel and how we are expecting the rebound to affect as well.
Great. So we'll look out for that. And I think we're expecting to do a webinar about that when that launches. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. Towards the end of it. So do look out for that, everybody. I think that'd be really interesting. Some good insight to that. Do download the one we've launched today. On that note, I'm going to have to stop, I'm afraid. So thanks to Alex. Thanks very much to Carlos.
Thank you.
A big thanks to Yuval from Nuvei. Appreciate your time today. Hope everyone enjoyed and got something out of that session, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.